Welcome back to Making Sense Conversations. So glad to be here back with you today. Making Sense is on every Friday with intermittent breaks. So I want to welcome everybody who's joining us from the different platforms. Welcome those who are joining us on Facebook at Centonomy, on Facebook on Waceke and Nduati, and also on Twitter and YouTube. And I'm just so excited about today's conversation because it's one of those where I had such harsh lessons learning about. So if you're new to Making Sense, let me tell you what you're in for as you start joining our community. Making Sense is about building a community of financially empowered people. We started having these conversations in April when the whole COVID situation started, and it's built on principles from my book, Making Sense. But as we've gone, we've really taken those principles and come and exploded with them through conversations. So please, as we're doing this, think of us as we're in your sitting room and we're talking about things that are thought-provoking, things that have meaning, and things that when you spend this 1 hour with us, something changes. So please let us know where you're from. I know we have audiences all around the world. We have audiences in Africa. Of course, we have audiences in Kenya. But please start writing in and telling us where you're from. And today's conversation is about the debt trap. This September, I want to talk about traps, many traps, the hustler trap, the corporate trap, the lifestyle trap. But today I want to talk about the debt trap because it's one of those topics over time has been almost taboo to talk about. We feel bad we're in debt. Some of us are scared of debt. Others are taking debt and you don't know if it's the right reason for taking debt. And others are just hiding and saying, especially now, they're just hiding and going out there, putting on a brave face, but dying inside. And we want you to stop dying inside and just understand there's nothing wrong with you. You're not going through anything. Other people are not going through. So we are here to open up the conversation. So please, because debt is so important. I know a lot of people, this is what they struggle with. I want you to invite you, please, from the word go, start asking those questions. Start anything you want to know about your debt, we have just 1 hour, so start writing in as soon as possible. So welcome back. I can see some people who've been with us before, and welcome back. Let us know where you're from. So today I was in another discussion and I took people through something called the rat race. And I think a lot of us have heard about the rat race. And the rat race pretty much goes like this. You have a job or you have a business that gives you an income, you work hard, it's you going to work, you work hard, then you go and buy things or you spend the money and then you convince yourself, I need to keep working harder. So you go and earn more money, work hard, earn more money, buy more things. Then you convince yourself, my goodness, if I only could get a raise. And in that cycle, when the money that you're earning doesn't catch up to what you want, what do you tend to do? Sometimes it's you go and take a loan. And that's what I did. I had not taken debt until I went to university. And I went to university in Australia. I know our audiences, some of them are even in Australia. I went and did my master's degree in Australia. And when I got there, it's the first time a credit card was thrown at me. It's the first time I entered shops that told me, hey, you don't have to pay instantly. Just get a store card and walk out with your goods. So I went crazy. And even though I was earning good money, I got into this cycle of spending more than I earned because I could always access some sort of credit to buy the things. So as much as I was working and still working in the financial industry, this whole concept of saving to buy something really didn't hit me till much later in life. And when I came back to Kenya, I had to spend 3 years paying off the debt I accumulated. I have absolutely nothing to show for it. Basically, it was in clothes, it was in shoes, it was in electronics, which have been overtaken by events, as you can imagine. Though that stereo I thought was the hottest stereo, but it has been overtaken by events, as you can, and technology. And it was painful to pay back that loan. It took me 3 years from my first salaries of earning when things like 30,000 shillings, 10,000 shillings per month was going back into servicing a loan. And I was so ashamed about it. I didn't want to tell my family. Even when I got married, it took me such a long time to open up and tell my husband that I had this debt that was hanging over my head. So, and I've experienced debt in many forms. That's just one of them. But there's also been debt when you're starting a business. You decide to go to that loan shack and borrow because it's so stressful. I've understood when you get into that moment of you don't know what to do, it's so easy to start thinking about debt. And now we are living, if I can speak about Kenya, we're living in an environment where it's so easy to access debt. All you need is a phone. Today, right now, I can get a loan, and so can you. And I think many of us have found ourselves in that environment where we have loans from multiple sources. And that is why we are calling it a trap. Not all debt is bad. Debt, if used the right way, can be good. But that's what we're here to actually talk about. And today, I'm so excited to have on board my friend, Isaac Kigen, who is a lecturer, but he's also a strong supporter of Centonomy and actually teaches in the Centonomy classes and teaches this subject of debt. So today, just remember, we're just here to have a conversation with you about debt. Please start asking your questions. Please start writing in. Please start telling us what you've experienced or where you've struggled in as we go through this. So Isaac, welcome to Making Sense. And maybe you can tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you, Waceke, for that introduction. Yes, my name is Isaac, and I'm so excited to be in this session today. We've come a long way with Waceke. We've been through this journey. We've trained a lot, many companies, and even the Centonomy classes on the issues that we are talking about, personal finance. Debt is a very emotive issue, just like Waceke has explained. I would give the perspective from the Kenyan scenario where you're a young man and you've just graduated from university, you get your first job, and before you know it, there's a pressure to buy a car. So that is your first loan. Or even before you take the loan for the car, you need to furnish your house. Instead of sleeping on a mattress, you need to impress people. So you take up what we call a salary loan or a product to furnish your house, and you start getting into debt. And before you know it, you are in about a year or so, you take a top up, and then see the loan started as 250,000. Yes. And then you're still servicing that loan. All of a sudden, you want to take up another loan, maybe to now get a car, a middle-level sized car. And all along, there's a lot of pressure from around you. If you're a young man, you have a girlfriend who wants to be taken out on dates. So there's the pressure to take a loan and buy that car. And then it keeps on building and building and building to a point where you have a lot of, if you look at your balance sheet, you have a lot of debt on the liability side and nothing much to show for it. And even if there's something to show for it, it is not something that is really appreciating in value. So I think that is something that is very emotive. I'm sure we are going to be touching on issues to do with how it even impacts relationships. You have alluded to you feeling embarrassed and not even mentioning it to your partner because it's embarrassing. I would put it this way, that many spouses, well, both men and women, feel the pressure to meet certain standards or certain needs, and you are embarrassed of saying, I don't have money. And so you can't keep on singing the song, I don't have money, I don't have money, I don't have money. Sooner or later, you because of the backlash that it brings, emotional backlash. What's wrong with you? What kind of man are you? You can't provide you can't upgrade the car you drive, and so on and so forth. So you prefer to take that loan and so how you're going to pay it, so that's to just have some semblance of peace, or maybe to maintain a certain kind of image. I think so it is. These are things that are really affecting all of us.
I think you're so right, Isaac. I think I liked what you touched on about where it starts from. So even if there are young people listening here today, And like me, it starts from just those things, lifestyle. You want good things and you want them very quickly. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So it starts, you start building up and saying, okay, this is what I earn, or sometimes I don't earn. And I think, Isaac, what I started deluding myself when I started doing it, and I think a lot of people, is that in 6 months, in a month, something will have happened, to sort out my debt. So let me live the life first, you only live once. We go into the YOLO conversation with ourselves and say, you only live once. So let me pull that money. Let me get it from all these mobile money apps. I won't mention the names, and let me pull that money and start living that life. Especially in terms of let me go out. Let me go out. Yes. And I think even what you've said, and then it spirals. The thing is, I think I learned about debt, it's a habit, and that's why we're calling it a habit. It starts like one of everybody, their first loan thought that's the only loan they'll take, especially, and I'm talking about these consumer loans. We all think, Isaac, that's it's only this one, just this once. I'll take that loan. And then what you don't realize is it has sucked you in. And that's what you've got to understand about debt. And that's why debt for consumption is so risky, because there are always things to consume. You see, if I'm taking debt to buy land, it's not, or property, it's not as addictive. Because I'm not buying land every day. But once I say I'm taking debt to go out for drinks, I'm taking debt to buy clothes. Every day I'm in there. So I take my debt, I swipe my credit card, and I buy that great outfit, which was what happened to me. See, the next day I'm still passing through the mall, even passing through whatever. So the thing is, you've got to understand, I think I've learned about consumption credit is because you're consuming every day. What you've now taught your mind is that the way to access this consumption is to continue actually taking the loan. Then what happens as you grow older, I think what has happened to people is we don't want to say, there's so much stigma in saying I can't afford it. So we are dating and we are putting on a show. And you talked about men, we are putting on a show. And I've even talked to young people in university, and they're already borrowing to take a girl on a date. So we are dating and I'm putting on a show for you that I'm doing okay. And don't be fooled. Even these days, it's women who put on a show that they are doing well. It's not just men.
True.
Then we get married under that lie. I have to continue putting on the show, because I can't have been dating you and then all of a sudden the show has stopped.
True.
And then so we enter this marriage with this, and sometimes even just a partnership with this expectation, which starts then becoming emotional blackmail. You're the man, shouldn't you be able to do this?
True.
Or aren't you supporting me? And sometimes even women have felt it. You're told, aren't you supporting me? So go and take a loan so that my business can thrive. I want you to support me. So it just, I don't know if you've experienced or seen it even when you're teaching people, that a lot of it is emotional blackmail. And that's why we're saying sometimes debt is a taboo topic. We don't actually want to talk about the things that are causing us to be in debt. And sometimes it's the people in your own house.
True. Actually, I would add to that. I would advise every young person who's getting into any relationship to be open. And when you're in a relationship, it is easy to open about many other things. You open up about your life, but not about money issues. And that is the most critical thing that you need to open. So that you actually open and say, I have this debt and this one and this one and this one, and I'm working towards finishing them up. In fact, so you don't want to show that you're really in a mess. You're really in a mess. Maybe your fear that if you speak out and explain your real scenario, maybe they will think twice about you. And then the pressure we just talked about earlier, a few minutes ago, sorry. You imagine young people, you want to go, an idea comes up and we are going camping. And at that time of the month, you don't have anything much.
Yes.
And, rather than just say, okay, guys, I'm not in a position to go right now. But because everyone is going, and because the person you have set your sights on is also going, you feel the pressure to actually borrow, this quick loans, so that you can actually go, you have a nice weekend and say, I'll sort it later. And it becomes, like you rightfully say, it becomes an addiction. So it becomes you get addicted to taking, and before you know it, you're actually taking one to pay for another. And these are things that we have seen. And I would just like to say to our audience, we are not having this conversation because we are the best people in this kind of thing. Remember, it takes a thief to catch a thief. So we're talking even from some of our experiences, We are talking about some of the things, and we feel the need or the urge to actually speak about these things, and as a way create some way of trying to help people to either avoid getting into this kind of trap, or if you're already there, look for means of actually getting out. What I alluded earlier about these top-up loans, you find that somebody actually takes huge loans, to furnish the house, to buy the car, even to do good things like even buying plots, but you keep on doing top up. Before you know it, you have a loan of 2.5 million, and the only thing you can show is maybe a car, a plot of land somewhere on your way to Kajiado or something like that, and you realize that you're not really progressing, or you're not really making financial strides as you ought to be. So this becomes a situation where you will now have a huge baggage, and you are now getting into your mid-30s, you want to settle down, you cannot even live the kind of lifestyle you should be living because you're busy sorting out loans that you took, that you've stacked one on top of the other, that have taken a span of more than 10 years. So it becomes a trap, as you rightly put it. It is a trap, and getting out of it is it is possible, and that's why we are talking about this today, but it is not easy. So the best thing to do for any young person who is listening to this, please, if you can, avoid what we call unhealthy debt, especially when you still have minimal obligations at the moment. You actually should do your best to ensure that you minimize taking loans. If you have to take a loan, then it has to be for something that is appreciating in value, something that you will actually put a positive, you can on the asset side of your personal financial balance sheet, and actually an increase in the asset side, even as you keep on paying or getting out of the liability for which you acquired that particular asset.
And, a lot of people, and thank you for everybody who's commenting. Virginia, who said, she's stuck in the mobile app. Derek, welcome, watching from Meru. And Anne saying instant gratification leads you to the debt trap. So I'm really, guys, please keep those comments and the questions coming. I think everybody who's tuned in has had an experience with debt and can relate to what we are saying. And what we were saying earlier with Isaac is sometimes you just feel alone. Yeah. So first we want to remove the stigma of having debt. Yeah. I've talked about debt. Even as I grew the business, there's debt I took. And I understand it's almost like debt is a taboo topic. So because even many times when we've had, when we're having before when we're still in the physical world and we're having seminars for Centonomy, you'd call guys, if it's an investment seminar, people show up. Wealth creation seminar, people show up. Debt, people are struggling with it, but they don't show up as much. So even that wanting to admit, and you know why I find it so scary not to admit it, because we're walking around hoping something will happen. Or let's say sometimes we like going around hoping one day, let me ignore everything, and one day a big deal will come. You'll get these 5 million shillings that just swipes off everything and wipes it slate clean. But it doesn't happen like that. But first, I want to tell everybody here, don't be ashamed of that fact that today you have debt. There are many reasons that got you into debt, and some of it could be the mistakes we are talking about. But the thing is, with life, you do make mistakes. Yeah. So the fact that you made a mistake just makes you human. But when we start getting stuck and start to identify ourselves as I'm in debt, I'm in debt, I'm in debt. That's when it starts being very dangerous. And I believe even as you work through debt, you have to in fact put your mind onto other things. So organize your finances to be able to handle the debt. But it doesn't mean you don't read a book that pushes you ahead. It doesn't mean you don't go for a seminar, because debt cannot become your identity. Because a lot of people start identifying themselves, I'm that person in debt. I cannot do anything because I'm in debt, yeah? So don't feel ashamed. If you're here and have been struggling with, I feel ashamed, don't feel ashamed. I was talking to bankers earlier today, and even if some of them have told their customers, please, if you have a problem, please come to us so that we can restructure their loans. They were telling me that a lot of customers are not doing that, even though they are in problems. In fact, they are running away from picking the phone because they don't want to go and admit that they need help. There is no point in living like that. Admit you need help, and you'll be shocked 3 years, 2 years, 5 years from now. It is a story. You'll be talking about that story the way we are talking about our stories today. So let's remove the shame of debt. And if you're, especially, let me go back to what Isaac, you're saying, people in relationships, it becomes very hard to get out of debt if you feel your family members or the person you live with is going to keep making you more and more and more ashamed about taking debt. Because I know in households, people are going home or they've been at home, and every day they're being told, how could you see what you have caused us now? Especially now when many people have found themselves with less money, all the problems are coming out. But nobody gets out of debt by being shamed out of debt. That is the thing. Yeah, people get out of debt by being empowered to get out of debt. So for yourself, do not shame yourself. Self-condemnation will do nothing for you. But if you are living with somebody who this is their story, yeah, making them feel bad day in and day out is not going to help the situation. In fact, what it will do is probably create an environment where they want to keep hiding, yeah, so they end up even taking more debts. So they can get that instant gratification that some of you have mentioned, that you leave them alone. Yeah, you came in and bought a new sofa, so you leave me alone for 1 month for them to have peace. So I think first and foremost, even for us to, and we're going to go through some of the practical steps in working through debt, even for us to move forward, let us remove the stigma. And Isaac was talking about listing things down. And the first thing you can do for yourself is feel the fear and do it anyway. By the way, it is scary. Just write it down. Yeah.
If I can interrupt you a bit, Waceke,
yes.
There's something you have said that is very, very powerful. It's big, it's huge. A few years ago, I was involved in assisting a young man who had a drug problem. Yeah. So I did the research, and we identified a nice rehab on your way to Limuru. And it is after visiting the young man there a few times, having been in the rehab for some time, and I realized from what the facilitators there were saying that people who are addicted, it doesn't have to be drugs, it could be anything. People who are addicted have a problem just like the way people who are sick, people who have malaria. So the family members make it worse by keeping on happening and saying that, oh, you're useless, if you could only do the, keeping, and it makes it very bad. Same thing to what happens when somebody who is heavily indebted feels, because they need to be assisted, they need to be helped to actually overcome the problem, not to be shamed. So shaming actually makes them retreat.
Yes.
Shaming makes them retreat, and rightfully so, they will actually go back, and if they can find another alternative where they can even get more debt, so as to save face, current face. If every time I go home, I'm being told I'm a failure because I've not brought in X, Y, Z. So, and if there's somebody who can lend me an X amount of money so that I can buy those things that will show that I am not that person that I was painted to be, for sure I will get it. Yeah, sure.
For sure. And I'll run away from the house and go and continue pursuing those activities. I'll try and find an escape. So I'll go to the bar and continue pursuing those activities that allow me to escape for a while. Yeah. So in
true.
the bar, what am I doing? I'm taking my mobile credit loan and buying the drinks. So I think I really like that, what you've used, that it's if you started that cycle of debt, it's like an addiction. First, you have to stop it, but understand it is a process you're going to go through. And many times that's why somebody else coming and paying off your debt, even this miraculous place we want to go to find financial freedom, someone coming and paying off your debt does not help. I know many parents who maybe they have the means and they have kids who are in their 20s or in their 30s, and some even in their 40s, yeah? And they have kept over time going and paying off the debt. Someone gets into a business venture without thinking about it. They take a loan, the parent comes and pays off the loan. If they go and buy a car and commit something, the parent comes and pays off the loan. They ramp up huge credit cards, they come and pay off the loan. And then there are those parents who even give their kids the credit cards, they come and pay off the loan. When you go and pay off somebody's loan, so just understand, even you who is in debt, the answer is not somebody coming to pay off your loan. Yeah, not all the time, because you've not built the muscle. Because what we're talking about here is build the muscle that can avoid the temptation of debt. Yeah. So when someone comes and pays off your loan, you probably will at some point, because your mindset hasn't changed. Your mind is still what, Isaac, you're talking about, the addicted mind. Yeah. So you'll revert to the loan. Yeah. So that's why also just someone else coming to do it, you don't actually own the responsibility. So think about debt, your path on debt, getting out of debt. And one boy you've mentioned, you feel like a prisoner, no freedom. This is the path to freedom. Yeah. It is like if you have a headache, and many times when we have a bad headache, we go for the painkiller. Yeah. And if your headaches keep repeating themselves, then obviously the painkillers are not the issue. Yeah, painkillers will resolve the pain for a few hours and then the headache comes back. Yeah, so treat your debt repayment process like a vitamin. You see, maybe if you have headaches, you're lacking some vitamins in your body. That is what is causing the imbalance. Yeah, so you have to take vitamins. When you take the vitamin the first day, it doesn't mean that the headache will go away, but you have to keep taking it consistently, and at the same time, then you might find in a week, you're starting to feel better. So debt is not taken care of through the painkiller methodology, yeah, where it wipes off. And sometimes the painkiller methodology, if a certain bank is bothering you, what do people do? Let me go to the other bank, borrow to pay, borrowing, what do we like call it? Borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Yeah, that also doesn't work. Yeah, so we have to go this process of step by step, and you have to feel some sort of discomfort. Because I remember when I took 3 years and it took my starting salary, it took a third of my starting salary to pay off that loan. When I now faced consumption debt again, I was very careful because I had felt the pain. Unfortunately, it is that process and that pain and you being uncomfortable. You now have to go home and tell people, this is the truth about my financial situation. Hey, you will not want to feel that pain again. Yeah. But if someone paid off for you, your mother behind the scene paid off for you, then you don't know.
So it's actually a journey. It's a journey that you must make. It's a journey. It's a process. I like the word process. It is something that you must go through. It's a mental thing. It has to do with character. It has to do with habits. It has to do with thoughts. It has to do with moving away from those things that took you into those problems in the first place. Remember, we are normally told that we cannot fix problems with the mind or the brain or the thoughts, the brain that helped
caused the problem.
Created the problem in the first place. So you need to rework, you need to change, you need to have a mind shift to move away from those kind of thoughts or those kind of conducive environments. Like for example, if pre-COVID, when people, Nairobians are having a good time, having drinks, and you're meeting with your friends, it's on a Friday like today, and you only had 3,000 or less in your pocket. The propensity to actually swipe your card is very, very high. People are buying drinks, and you don't want to be known as the guy who is just cracking jokes and not buying drinks. So you feel compelled to swipe your card. So in other words, if we can move away from those kind of environments, and we understand that there are people who are really struggling, and to put things, to put food on the table. We understand those kind of scenarios, and their situation is kind of different, and they need perhaps maybe empowerment or opportunities to actually, economic activities to actually help them get out of that scenario. But most of the time, most people get into debt because of what Waceke you've mentioned as consumer debt. And most of these are things that are luxuries, things that you easily, items that are not really needs but wants. You want to upgrade something, you want to have a good time, something that will not be there tomorrow. You spend it today and it will not be there tomorrow. You want to throw a mega bash for whichever event, and yet the bash will just only be a memory. The only thing you can remember is just the photos. So back to what you're saying, we have to go through the process of unlearning some things. The moment you start focusing on certain things, the moment you start focusing on something, for sure, you will find yourself being drawn to it. So in other words, it has to take a thought process, look for anything, any kind of aspect that will take you in a different direction from the direction that it used to lead to the pattern that kept you getting into it over and over. Yeah.
And I think, Isaac, it's we want to do it comfortably. Yeah. And I think a lot of people ask me, how do I get out of debt? And a lot of you people are wondering, how do you get out of debt? First, let's state the principle. You get out of debt by paying off the debt. Yeah. So the answer is extremely simple. It's not simple I'm not saying it's easy. Yeah. It's not easy, but it's simple. You get out of debt for paying the debt. So when we talk to practically, how do you get out of debt? Our mind has to go to, what do I need to do? Please not abuse the words, what do I need to do? Not what does your bank need to do? Not what does your mother need to do? Not what does your spouse need to do? What do I need to do? Because nobody held a gun to your head and told you to enter into debt. And sometimes I guess when we're teaching and we say that, people are like, woo, shock. But by the end of the Centonomy 1-1 program, you realize people got out of debt. Because once you take responsibility, as Isaac, you've been saying, if I got into debt, just understand it is the same I to get myself out of debt most of the time. Yeah. So I know some of you are saying, I feel like a prisoner, no freedom. Now, when it comes, in my experience, when it comes to getting out of debt, first I'm going to start with my mind, where my mind has to be. I cannot treat debt like an identity. I cannot treat debt like an identity. Oh, because I'm in debt, I'm just going to wallow in self-pity. No. Do arrange your finances as best as I can. And Isaac, later I want you to comment on how people can arrange their finances to get out of debt. Arrange your finances as best as you can. But once you've done that, it's time to figure out, because if it's about you paying back, it's about asking yourself, where will I get money to pay off this debt? Yeah. And someone has asked, I think someone has asked, what happens, Virginia asked, when you explain to the bank, yet they don't want to, they refuse. Remember, when you did take a loan from the bank, they have no obligation to actually give you. When you take a loan, you're understanding that the bank at any time can ask you to pay off the loan. So they've given you terms in which you can do it, but some banks are doing it, but they're not all, banks are under no obligation to give moratoriums. They're legally under no obligation to do it. So we have to go back to our responsibility. How do you pay off debt? How do you get out of debt? By paying off debt. How do you pay off debt? By finding money to pay off debt. Where do you find money to pay off debt? First, obviously, you look at how you're spending. You can't continue the same lifestyle if you want to pay off debt. And I've coached people about this so many times, and sometimes you have to make drastic changes. Yeah, I've had people coach people who for a while, and now because I've been doing this for 11 years, I can tell you they did it, got out of it. I have coached people who went back to their parents' house because they realized they need that rent money to pay back their debt. Yeah, but now they've moved back out, because once you're free again from the debt, then you can go back and do the things that are important to you. But now they're out. And because of the pain of having to live in their parents' house for another 3 years, yeah, I can guarantee you they're never going to that sort of debt. Yeah. So it's either you're cutting something or you're starting to think. That's why I keep saying, don't put your mind in a place of my identity is debt. Start thinking, what can I do? Yeah. In the Centonomy classes, we had a lady who, after the debt class, Isaac, she realized, oh, this baking skill I've been sitting on. She started carrying cakes and stuff to work. She started earning an extra 20,000 shillings. She used that to pay off her debt. Yeah. So I think just understand, whenever you get into a challenge of some sort, despite what caused the challenge, it's the role of a challenge. Otherwise, God would have made a world with no challenges. The role of a challenge is to grow you. Sometimes growth, you're going to get out of your comfort zone. So cut down your expenses. It sometimes even means moving your children from that school you like so much to another school. This is what debt must do. It makes you do those things you don't want to do. Or stretch yourself. Stop putting yourself in this box and say, because I am an accountant, all I can do is accounting. No, you're an accountant, but you're also the accountant who can bake mandazis. Then bake the mandazis and use that money to actually get out of debt.
So actually, I would we are looking at it from a two-pronged perspective. What can you do? What can you do? Is there anything you can cut? Is there any lifestyle you can, any adjustments you can make to your lifestyle? Is there anything you can save by not you know? Let me give an example. You know, like if you spend money, you know, treating your family every weekend, every Sunday, to burgers and things like that, I have realized that, you know, how much you can actually save by actually buying those the burgers and making them yourself. In other words, it's just an example. Basically, what can we adjust? What can we cut down on? What are some of the things that we can do differently? And of course, we have to, you know, involve the entire family so that we are together in this, so that they understand why are we not spending what we have always known to spend every Sunday? Why are we not doing this? So that they understand why we are doing it, so that they appreciate. And it's just temporary. It's for a period of time until we are out of this, and then we can actually move out to doing the things that we have always wanted to do as a family. So we can cut our expenses, and just like what you've said in terms of instead of always focusing on the bottom line, why not also look at the top line? Extra revenue. What can you do? What side hustle? What gifts? What at Centonomy we call it non-financial assets. What are the connections you have? What skills do you have? What hobbies? What can you do with your skills? Can you teach some people how to play the guitar? Can you instruct swimming lessons? You know, anything you can do, an extra coin you do, it goes a long way into actually getting you out of debt. Meanwhile, as you keep on cutting the expenses. Two ways of looking at it.
Okay, Isaac, there's something you teach in class about, even when you've cut your expenses, how to, because people have multiple debts, Maybe you can explain in just a few minutes how, if you're in debt, what is the starting point? Because what I think a lot of people get caught up with, I have these 4 loans, and I can see your questions coming in, guys, and I'm going to answer them in just a minute, but I'd like Isaac to really explain this. I have a couple of loans, People get so overwhelmed because I think they look at all the loans and they're like, I'm never going to get out of this. But maybe very simply, you can go through just the principle of debt repayment that you actually take guys through in class.
All right. Okay, so fine. If you have 2, 3, 4 debts that are really burdening you, and you feel like a slave, and for sure, many of us feel like we are in bondage because we are not even able to enjoy the stature that our job gives us. You know, you're a mid-level manager in a serious organization. You can't even live the kind of lifestyle that is due to people like you, because your money comes and like a third of it
disappears.
It disappears. So you are left with so little. Anyway, the thing is, first of all, as we have said, accept that you have a problem. Sit with your significant other or your close people, your friends, your family, and explain that this is the problem that you're in, and you need to come work a program to actually get out of that particular problem. It will take a bit of time, as you have said. And then, of course, we have said you cut your expenses. You cut your expenses. For example, if you have 3 major loans, okay, let's simplify it, where you're paying each of them 5,000 shillings per month. All right. So in other words, you're servicing out of your salary, you're paying off 15,000 shillings every month. So 5,000 goes to the first loan, 5,000 goes to the second loan, and another 5,000 goes to the third loan. Assume that the 5,000 that you're paying includes both interest and principal. And the first loan, you will finish paying for it in 6 months' time. So meaning that it's a loan you owe 30,000. Yeah, because you're talking about 6 months, 5,000 shillings each month. So 5 times 6, 30,000. All right. Now, the second loan that you're also servicing 5,000 per month is going to take you 12 months. All right. It's going to take you 12 months from January until December. So 12 times 5, that gives you 60. You're talking about a loan of 60,000. So that's the second loan. And then you have a third loan for which maybe a slightly bigger loan that you took maybe a while ago. And it is, the amount is 180,000 and you're servicing 5,000 shillings every month. Now this 5,000 shillings every month is going to take you 3 years. So 180,000 is what you're targeting to pay after 3 years. So the first point is once you've cut your expenses, or in addition, combination of cutting your expenses and doing a side hustle that will give you an extra amount of money, assume that you're able to free up 5,000 shillings. Assume you're able to free up 5,000 shillings. So what we are saying is, I know there are situations where if you're between a rock and a hard place, you can actually go to a bank and take a big loan and pay off these 3 loans and service this loan and stretch it for a long period of time. But that makes you a slave longer. And sometimes maybe the interest you pay is actually much, much higher if you kept on paying for that longer period. What we are saying is if you can manage to pay each of these loans at the same time, please do so. We have said it's not easy. We know that it's not easy, but this is a journey that you have to take. We have to make these sacrifices. If you're going to get out of this situation. So assume you're able to free 5,000 shillings. So with this 5,000 shillings, you add it to the first loan, the one that is going to take 6 months to clear. So it means you're going to be paying 10,000 shillings for the first loan while servicing the other 2. We are not saying you're not servicing the others. You're still continuing to service, but you put emphasis on the one that you will finish paying first. So how long will it take? It's 30,000. Now you're paying 10,000 per month. How long will it take? It will take 3 months because 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, and in 3 months, end of 3 months, you're done with that first loan. And there's something therapeutic. There's something really relieving the moment you finish the first loan. It gives you, it actually generates momentum. It makes you feel so nice that the first loan is gone. And now by the time you're finishing that first loan, you realize that you've been paying off 10,000 shillings every month. Now you have 10,000 available. What do?
You put it to the second loan.
You take the entire amount of 10,000, you roll it over to the second loan.
You don't go and spend it, Just to be clear.
Yes, you don't spend it. And that's why we said, first of all, you start with your brain. You start with your mind and tell yourself, I am on this goal of actually getting out of debt. So I'm not going to allow distractions, come in along the way. So I'll take this 10,000 and roll it over to the next loan, which was supposed to be done at the end of the year. But remember, you have already paid 3 months of 5,000 of the second loan. And since the amount was 60,000, the remaining amount is 45,000. All right? Are we together? The remaining amount is 45,000. Now, there is 10,000 that is now available. So you get this 10,000, add it to the 5 that you were paying for the second loan. So meaning that you now are going to be servicing or paying the second loan by actually paying off 15,000 shillings per month. All right.
Okay.
So you've already paid. You've already paid off 15,000. 45,000 is remaining from 60. and you are paying 15,000 per month from this month, from the third month, from the beginning of the fourth month. All right. So 15,000 will take 3 months to clear 45,000. So an additional 3 months of the earlier 3 months, in 6 months, you're actually done with the first and the second loan.
Yes.
Yeah. Now you're left with this is 6 months gone. You're left with the final loan that was going to take 3 years of 180,000. And remember, this loan of 180,000, you have already been paying off servicing 5,000 per month for the last 6 months.
Yes.
So actually, you have paid off 30,000. You have paid off 30,000. What is remaining is 150.
Yeah.
But you realize that you have paid the second loan, which you are paying 15,000. Now there's 15,000 available. So what do you do at the end of the 6 months? Just like what you did at the end of the 3 months, you take the entire 15,000, roll it over into this third loan, so that you are now, remember, you are paying 5,000 for each of them initially. And as you keep on paying as you keep on finishing one, you roll off to the next one. So now there's 15,000, which you add to the 5,000 that you are paying initially, so that now you have 20,000 to pay for the third loan per month. And remember, this loan, the balance is 150,000, and you start paying 20,000 per month. So 20,000 per month. In 5 months' time, you've already paid 100. In 5 months' time, you've already paid off 100. And remember, 5 months' time is even the year is not over. The year is even not over. You already paid 100,000 of the third loan. You are left with 50,000. So as you keep on paying the 20,000, we realize that you will get out of debt, as you know, in a very fast manner. But this 1 year and 1 month that you will take to be completely debt free, it's not going to be easy. There are going to be many temptations along the way, as Waceke has mentioned. Along the way, by the time you're clearing the second loan, you'll be left with, there's an extra 15,000 that you can actually decide that, you know, I could actually, you know, I was staying in a house where I was paying 35,000 shillings rent per month. There's 15,000 available. I could as well move to stay in a house where I can be paying 50K, you know, moving up. Maybe to, so in other words, you avoid those kind of thoughts and concentrate on getting out of debt.
Guys, I hope you can see my screen. I just want to share, practically speaking, and I hope you can see this, what Isaac is talking about, because it's just the principle of whatever extra money you have, put it towards the shortest loan. When you finish all that, take all that money, put it to the next loan and the next loan, and you find by this way, you actually get out of debt very, very quickly, yeah? So imagine if you, let me just make it a bigger screen, yeah? This is what debt means. Let's take a loan amount of a million shillings. Let's say you're paying an interest rate of 16,000 shillings. And the term is 5 years. Let's take 5 years, for example. You took a car loan for 1 million shillings. This is what debt means. Because sometimes I think, Isaac, people are also in debt because we've not really understood what debt works. And maybe the financial institution you borrowed from did not go through this with you. Yeah. Most probably they did not go through this with you. Yeah. So you took a loan of 1 million shillings. It means every month, forget the dollar sign, it could be shillings, it could be whatever currency from whatever country you're dialing in from. The payment is 24,000 shillings per month because it's going to be 60 months, yeah? So in total, you'll have paid interest of 459,000 shillings. Somebody I've seen a comment about whether taking debt for house rentals is good. This is how you make the decision, yeah? It means that your loan has not cost you 1 million. It's not 1 million you pay back. You're going to pay back almost 1.5 million shillings. Yeah, 1.5 million shillings. So if you've used that 1.5 million shillings to buy something that is now worth, after 5 years, 5 million shillings, then it makes sense. That's what we call good debt. Good debt always makes you wealthier. But if you use this money to buy a car, by the end of 5 years, the car is worth what? Even on a good day, 500,000 shillings. So you're in a loss situation. So good debt makes you profitable, bad debt puts you in a loss situation. So someone was asking clothes because when I start a job, personal branding, no, it's not good debt. So figure out, how do I look good? I understand the importance of looking good for your first job, but how do I do it with the means I have? You have to get creative. You cannot go to that designer store or whatever and buy new clothes on credit. It is a bad idea to do that, yeah? So what Isaac is saying, let's say you have an extra 10,000 shillings. If you see this takes you 60 months to pay off. Let's say you have an extra 10,000 shillings, yeah? You put that towards the debt. Can you see? Instead of taking 60 months to pay it off, you take 39 months to pay it off. And instead of paying 459,000 shillings, you pay 287,000 shillings. So you have shortened. Then when you are done with the 39 months, if you have another debt, take this entire amount, the 10,000 plus the 24,000 you are paying, and put it towards the next debt and the next debt. So in the Centonomy class, and I know that was very brief, in the Centonomy class, we go through how your particular debt works and also building this personal debt repayment plan that Isaac has just taken us through for yourself. Because I know people have different sorts of loan, micro mobile loans and everything. So we actually do that. So yes, there's good debt, yeah, there's bad debt, and those people who are thinking I need debt so I can look good my first job, or some people have told me in the sessions that, oh, my job, I'm in this kind of job, so I need to be driving the right car. I talked to a CEO of a bank and I was so proud of this CEO, and he was telling his people, please don't try and look like me. Please don't try and drive the car I am driving. My car is paid for by the bank. So he was telling the people, I'm getting so disturbed when I enter that parking lot and I'm seeing people with bigger cars than the one I'm driving. Yet they are using their hard-earned income and loans from this same bank to buy that, yeah? So I think it's going back to some of the questions people are asking are really going back to, do not do this to look good. You want to look good, you want to buy good clothes, you want to personal brand well, be creative with what you have. If you start off taking a loan to buy the gadgets and to buy the clothes, I can guarantee you that in 5 years, it will be a bigger type of loan. In 10 years, it will be a bigger type of loan. And we have talked to people who are retiring with this kind of debt, and you do not want to be in that situation. So today we've talked about debt as a taboo. We've talked about why people get into debt. We've now gone into the very practical steps, and we've even shown you what many financial institutions may not show you about the reality of debt, yeah? Now you may be here and thinking about, it's not me who's in debt, it's others, yeah? It's my husband, it's my wife, it's my family member. And I think now that we've understood that people who are in cycles of debt is like an addiction, I think there's also a way we can support people who are in debt, yeah? You can bring them onto platforms like this or to Centonomy and get them come in and learn about your debt. I want to reiterate that supporting people in debt does not mean paying off the debt for them. If you recall what Isaac and I were talking about, sometimes when you pay off for people in debt, they just go back. They actually have to learn the process. But we're also saying don't beat people down because they got into debt. And I think one of the things that I've seen really, really work in our sessions is just have an accountability. Let them own up to the debt because they have to take responsibility, but maybe you can help them by being their accountability partner. I have seen that really works, where they commit in 6 months, I want to be here, or here are my credit cards, please cut them up. So a sense of accountability is a great way to support people in debt. Isaac, do you have any other suggestions of how we can also support people in debt?
Actually, of course, the first thing that when you take stock of where you are starting from, situational analysis, this is where I'm at, these are the challenges, these are the issues that I'm facing, these are the amounts I have to pay. In a situation whereby, you've talked about different types of debt. There is bank, there is SACCO, there is all other micro loans and so on and so forth. You could even be owing people. And you have different arrangements with various people. In a situation whereby you owe people who are maybe charging an interest or something like that, the first step to recognizing or to sorting out your problem is maybe approach these people and tell them you are on a debt repayment plan. You are working out a debt repayment plan. This is my debt.
In fact, sorry to interrupt you. There's someone who asked what happens when you explain to the bank you can't afford to pay and they refuse. So maybe even with the bank, it's coming to show them, here is my plan. Work with me. This is my plan. Not just saying I don't have money to pay, right? So
So you're right. That is definitely absolutely true. When you go to the bank and actually show them the financials, say this is how much I can get, and I am committing to put an extra amount based on this is how much I earn, but I'm putting an extra amount from other sources so that you can actually see my commitment in actually paying this debt. And if I can actually fulfill this, the bank will also be happy with you, because remember, the bank is also there because they need to make money from you by lending to people like you, to all of us. So reach out to the people that you owe, agree, reach an amicable, and I'm not guaranteeing that everyone will actually agree to what you propose, but that should not stop you. Like Waceke has mentioned, be afraid, but still do it anyway. In other words, if you have a number of people you need to approach each of them. One or two of them will not be very happy with you. Others will be happy that at least you're making progress. Maybe even some were even thinking you're probably going to not pay. But the fact that I've seen that you've taken the initiative, they will be happy to do that. So what we are saying is that for families and friends and close people who are on this journey, we ask that we can support the people who are trying to get out of debt by even listening to them, asking them what their plan is, asking them how can I be of help, how can I you've talked about accountability partners, the plan that you come up with, what can we do to make me accountable, to make this person accountable for his or her action in terms of that journey of actually probably getting out of this particular situation that they are in.
And remember, if you're in debt, don't run away from learning. Everything we've talked about is really covered in depth in the Centonomy 101 program, and we'll be sharing details in the chat of how you can still register for that program. Because I also don't think your journey of money just stops at the debt. There are other things you're doing, you're spending, lack of planning, not knowing where to put money. It is building a holistic financial life. So if you're in debt, come and learn so that you can understand, what do I need to do, not only to get out of debt, because we are saying do not get stuck in debt, but also to now build the dream, build the goals, work on the goals that you also have to. Yes, one of your goals can be debt, get out of debt, but that cannot be ultimately what you're aiming for in life. You've got other things you want to do, build investments, create wealth, go on holiday, whatever it is. So Centonomy 101 will help you. We are still registering people, so you can get the details on screen. The book is available, Making Sense. And in the book, I have a story about George, page 58, and I have a story about Faith and her husband, how they got out of debt. So the book kind of is also going to help you take all these things we've been saying and put them in context in personal conversations or personal stories with people that you can actually relate to. So that's where you can actually get the book. You can get the book by calling that number or emailing Beth at that email address. Online, Rafu Books, Nuria Online, or Amazon, and bookshops in Kenya at Yaya Center, Africa Book Hub, Prestige Bookshop. We will shortly be in Uganda, and the books will be available in Uganda, and we'll be telling you about that. But I just want to wrap this up and just say thank you so much to Isaac. Thank you, Isaac, so much. Do you have parting shots for our audience? A parting shot for our audience?
Okay. We can actually say that money is lost or made at the habit level. So we need to actually change the mind, do a mind shift in terms of what we think, re-engineer our brain so that we are able to think differently. But debt is good if it is used for the right purposes. Debt is actually the slave. The borrower is also slave to the lender if the debt is an unhealthy debt. But if you're in that space, you can actually get out of it by consistent and committed progress from based on the things we've talked about. And I would like to urge everyone who's listening to please purchase the book. It is very practical, written by Waceke and based on experiences and a lot of things that she's learned along the way. Please also look at the website, Centonomy website, and any other channels to see the number of things that we can actually learn from Centonomy. Thank you, Waceke, for and the team for hosting this session. It's been great, and God bless.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being with us here today. I just want to end by saying the reason we called debt a trap is because it traps us psychologically and it traps us financially. Yeah. So, and we were never built to be a slave to anything. So we don't want you to be a slave to debt. Yeah. And the first thing, even if you're in debt, doesn't mean you're a slave to debt. So you just have to face it. You just have to own up to it. And once you're aware of it, you can start understanding and put your mind in the game of how do I get out of it? And how do I even empower myself further? So do not become a slave to things. So debt is something I've gone through, many people have gone through, Isaac has gone through, and you can get out of it. It is something that's meant to be a tool for your financial journey, not something that's meant to put you in a prison. So for all of you, thank you for joining us today. And I really hope today gave you some sense of hope, some sense of freedom, and even things you can share to each other. Please feel free to share this even after we finished streaming it to people you think ought to hear this. This September is a September for freeing people. And I wanted to start with debt, but the entire month I will be tackling traps. Yeah. So look out next week for the next trap that we will be talking about. We'll start advertising on Monday. And I hope to see you then. Please tell your friends, your family about these Making Sense conversations, because we are committed to continuing to empower you. Have a fantastic weekend and see you next Friday.